You know what's strange? We humans can turn a small thought into a full-blown movie in our head, directed, acted, and produced by us. Someone doesn't reply to our message, and suddenly our mind becomes a detective agency. Did I say something wrong? Are they ignoring me? Have they moved on? We think, and then we think about the thinking. And by the end of it, we've built a story that never even existed. My friends, overthinking is like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it takes you nowhere. It drains your peace, delays your progress, and kills your confidence before you even start. Today, let's talk about this silent enemy of growth. Overthinking is the enemy of progress. Because life doesn't reward those who think the most, but those who act with faith. A short pause, gentle tone. So the question is, are you living your dreams or just thinking about them? Overthinking is a delay disguised as preparation. You see, many people will tell you, I'm just planning, I'm just making sure I do it right. But if you watch closely, they've been making sure for months, sometimes even years, and they haven't taken a single real step forward. It's like standing at the edge of a swimming pool, analyzing the water, checking the temperature, calculating the depth, wondering about the chlorine level. And before you know it, the day ends, the pool closes, and you never even got wet. We convince ourselves that we're being smart, that we're being cautious, but in truth, we're just scared. Scared to fail, scared to be judged, scared that our best effort might still not be enough. So we wrap that fear in beautiful packaging. We call it thinking it through. But the truth is, we're not preparing, we're postponing. Preparation has an endpoint, a moment when you say, okay, now it's time to move. Overthinking never has that moment. It keeps you stuck in a loop, replaying the same scenarios, the same doubts, the same what ifs over and over until your confidence fades. And the saddest part, by the time you finally feel ready, the opportunity might already be gone. Think of it this way. A plane is designed to fly, not to sit on the runway forever. The engines can warm up for hours, but until it takes off, it's not doing what it was made to do. You and I are like that. We're built to create, to explore, to act. But when we stay grounded in our thoughts, we forget that life isn't lived in our heads, it's lived in our steps. The truth is, no amount of thinking can replace experience. You can read 100 books about swimming, but until you dive in, you'll never feel the water. You can analyze 1,000 strategies for success, but until you take action, you'll never taste progress. Because growth doesn't happen in the mind, it happens in motion. So if you catch yourself overthinking, pause, take a breath, and remind yourself, you don't need to have it all figured out before you begin. You just need the courage to begin. Because every dream you've ever admired, every person you've ever looked up to, they all started without perfect clarity. They just started. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you need to do today. Stop preparing to live and start living. The more you think, the less you do. It's strange, isn't it? The human mind can be so powerful, yet so paralyzing at the same time. You sit there wanting to start something, maybe a business, a project, a message you've been meaning to send, and your mind starts whispering, what if it doesn't work? What if people laugh? What if I'm not ready yet? And before you know it, hours turn into days, and days turn into months. And the dream you once felt burning inside you quietly fades away, not because you weren't capable, but because you were thinking too much about what could go wrong. Every time you overanalyze, your brain creates new reasons to wait. It convinces you that waiting will make things better, that another day will bring clarity, that more time will give you confidence. But the truth is, clarity doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. You don't get confident by standing on the edge of the stage, rehearsing in your head. You get confident when you step on it, when your voice trembles, when your hands shake and you still speak anyway. You see, the mind is an incredible storyteller. It will tell you 10,000 reasons to not start and only one reason to move: faith. But that one reason is enough if you listen to it, because all progress, all success, all transformation begins when you stop letting thoughts dictate your movement and start letting purpose guide it. We've all met people who are brilliant thinkers but poor doers. They have incredible ideas but no results. Because thought without action is like fuel without fire, potential energy, wasted energy. You can have the best plan in the world, but if it never leaves the paper, it's just a dream written down. Action gives thought its power. Without it, even genius remains invisible. Think about a seed. If it just stays in the hand, it will never grow. You can study it, analyze its structure, calculate the perfect soil temperature, but until you bury it in the ground and give it a chance to live, it's just potential. The same goes for us. Our dreams, our ideas, our goals, they're seeds. And overthinking is like keeping them locked in a jar, safe but lifeless. And let's be honest, most of the time, overthinking doesn't stop bad things from happening. It just stops you from happening. You miss experiences, opportunities, lessons, love, all because your mind kept you hostage in the land of hesitation. You were meant to move. You were built to act. The people who change the world aren't the ones who think the most. They're the ones who move first and learn later. They make mistakes, they stumble, they fall, but they keep walking. And as they walk, they learn. As they learn, they grow. And as they grow, they win. So if you ever find yourself stuck between thinking and doing, choose doing, even if it's small, even if it's uncertain. Because one imperfect action will teach you more than 1,000 perfect thoughts ever could. Don't wait for the right time. Don't wait for all the answers. Start. Because once you begin, your mind stops being your enemy and becomes your greatest ally. Your mind is a tool, not your master. But sadly, most people live their entire lives as prisoners of their own thoughts. The mind, this incredible gift, can build empires, write symphonies, invent miracles, heal the world. Yet when it goes uncontrolled, it can also destroy peace, kill dreams, and turn heaven into hell. It's not the world outside that breaks most people. It's the storm inside. You see, the mind was designed to serve you, to help you think, to solve, to plan, to create. But somewhere along the way, we forgot who's supposed to be in charge. Instead of using the mind like a sword, we let it use us like slaves. It starts whispering doubts, fears, insecurities, and we listen. It says, "You're not good enough," and we believe it. It says, "What if you fail?" and we freeze. It says, "People will judge you," and we stop before even starting. The mind becomes the master, and we become the servant. But here's the truth. Your mind is not you. You are the awareness behind the mind. The one watching those thoughts come and go. The one who decides which thought to water and which one to let die. When you realize that, everything changes. Because now you stop reacting to every thought and start responding with wisdom. Let me tell you something powerful. Your mind can't always be trusted. especially when it's scared. When you're anxious, your mind magnifies problems that don't exist. When you're sad, it paints the world darker than it is. When you're angry, it pushes you to say things you'll regret. But when you step back, breathe, and observe, you take the steering wheel back from the chaos. You remind your mind, you work for me, I don't work for you. Think about a knife. In the hands of a surgeon, it heals. In the hands of a child, it harms. The knife isn't the problem, it's how it's used. The same is true for your mind. Left untrained, it cuts you from within. Trained and guided, it becomes your greatest instrument for success. That's why silence, reflection, and mindfulness aren't luxuries. They're necessities. When you sit still for a few minutes each day, when you disconnect from the noise of the world and listen to the whispers within, you slowly begin to reclaim control. You begin to separate what's real from what's imagined. You start seeing how often your mind lies to you, telling you you're not ready, that no one cares, that it's too late. But in that quiet space, you realize something profound. It's not too late. It never was. You just needed to stop believing everything your mind says. Because your mind is a storyteller. It loves drama. It loves exaggeration. It loves to keep you safe. Even if that means keeping you stuck, its job is survival. But your soul's job is expansion. And the two are always in conflict. The mind says, stay where it's safe. The soul says, go where you'll grow. The mind says, what if I lose? The soul whispers, what if you fly? The happiest, most peaceful people aren't those who stopped thinking. They're the ones who learned how to think right. They don't suppress their thoughts, they direct them. They use their minds to imagine solutions, not problems. To create, not to criticize. To build bridges, not walls. So every morning before the day begins, remind yourself, my mind is my instrument. Tune it like a musician tunes their guitar. Feed it good thoughts. Focus it on gratitude. Challenge it when it tries to control you. Because when you become the master of your mind, you become the master of your life. And maybe that's the real secret of peace. Not silencing the mind, but leading it. Not fighting it, but guiding it. Not letting it cage you in fear, but using it to build a life filled with purpose, faith, and calm. The moment you stop letting your thoughts run your life, you finally start living it. Most fears exist only in imagination. Isn't it fascinating how the mind can create a whole world that feels real, yet has never actually happened? You sit alone in your room, and a single thought walks in. What if I fail? And within seconds, your mind builds an entire movie. You see yourself failing. You hear people laughing. You feel the shame, the disappointment, the pain, and none of it is even happening. It's all fiction. But to your body, it feels real. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, your palms sweat. The brain doesn't know the difference between an imagined fear and a real threat. It reacts the same way. And that's how fear steals your peace without ever touching your reality. You see, fear is clever. It doesn't need proof, it just needs your attention. The more you think about it, the more power it gets. It starts as a whisper. What if it goes wrong? Then it grows louder. What if everyone finds out? And before you know it, fear becomes your decision maker. You don't move, you don't speak, you don't try. Because your mind has already convinced you that it's safer to stay where you are. But here's the tragedy. The walls you build to protect yourself from failure also keep you locked away from success. Think about how many things you've wanted to do, but never did. Not because you couldn't, but because you were afraid of what people might think, afraid of rejection, afraid of stepping into the unknown. Fear makes us forget one simple truth. No one can predict the future. We think we're being cautious, but really, we're pretending to be fortune tellers. We imagine every possible negative outcome and call it being realistic. But realism is just fear in disguise when it stops you from growing. Let me tell you something. The things you fear the most often turn out to be the least dangerous. The phone call you're afraid to make, it might open a door. The person you're afraid to talk to, they might change your life. The opportunity you're scared to take, it might become the turning point of your entire journey. You never know, because fear makes you live in a story that never unfolds. I once heard a beautiful line: fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. And it's true. Failure can teach you, shape you, strengthen you. But fear doesn't even let you start. It traps you in imagination, where everything looks dark and heavy. But outside that imagination, life is waiting, bright and full of possibility. The mind's job is to protect, not to predict. When you were young, it learned that touching a hot stove hurts, so it created a system to keep you safe. But as you grow, the same system starts protecting you from imaginary heat. It tells you every new thing is dangerous. Every risk, every step, every dream. And you believe it. You stay in the comfort zone, but that zone isn't safe. It's suffocating. You'll never eliminate fear completely. It's a part of being human. But you can choose what to do with it. You can let it paralyze you, or you can let it guide you. You can say, if I'm afraid of this, maybe this is exactly where I need to grow. Fear can either be a wall or a compass. One stops you, the other directs you. Every time you feel afraid, pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this danger or is this just discomfort? Because discomfort is where transformation begins. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, they're not fearless. They just learned to act despite fear. They understood that fear is just a signal, not a stop sign. So when your mind starts creating those imaginary disasters, smile gently and say, not today. Come back to the present moment, the only place where life truly happens. Because right now, you are safe. Right now, you are capable. Right now, you have the power to move. And maybe that's the greatest victory over fear, not fighting it, not denying it, but walking forward with it, hand in hand, with courage louder than the noise in your head. Because once you take that step, fear doesn't disappear. It just loses its power to control you. Clarity comes from movement, not meditation alone. You can sit in silence for hours. You can think and think until your head feels heavy. But until you take that first step, you'll never really know what's right for you. Life doesn't reveal its answers to those who only think. It reveals them to those who move. You can't figure out the entire path while standing still, because the road only becomes clear once you start walking. So many people wait for the perfect moment. They sit and meditate, hoping for a divine sign to appear, a voice from the sky to tell them, yes, this is the way. But life doesn't work like that. Clarity doesn't fall from the heavens. It emerges through experience. You take a small step, maybe in confusion, maybe in doubt, and through that step, you start to see. Imagine you're walking through fog. You can't see the whole road. But as you walk, the next few feet appear. That's how clarity works. It's not given, it's earned one step at a time. You don't think your way out of confusion, you act your way out of it. Every action gives you feedback. Every experience teaches you something new. and slowly your path begins to make sense. Many people say, I'm waiting until I'm sure. But how can you be sure about something you've never tried? You can't know what a journey feels like by looking at the map. You have to walk it. You have to taste the air, feel the ground, stumble on the stones, and rise again. That's how clarity is born, through living, not lingering. It's easy to sit and imagine, to create perfect plans in your mind. But that's all imagination. The real world is messy, unpredictable, full of surprises. And that's the beauty of it. When you move, you get to meet reality, the truth that no thought can ever fully capture. You discover strengths you never knew you had. You face challenges that shape you. You grow. And through that growth, the noise in your head starts to quiet down. Let's be honest, thinking feels safe. It gives the illusion of control. You feel like you're doing something when in reality, you're standing still. You can spend years overanalyzing every choice, trying to avoid mistakes. But all that overthinking does is delay your becoming. Mistakes are not your enemy. Stagnation is. Mistakes guide you, they refine you, they teach you what thinking never could. When you take a step, even a small one, life starts responding. You meet people you wouldn't have met, opportunities you couldn't have imagined appear. The world opens up because you did. The energy of movement attracts clarity like light attracts truth. There's a story about a man who sat by a river, waiting for all the water to pass so he could cross safely. He sat there for days, for months, for years, and the river kept flowing. It never stopped. Because rivers don't stop, life doesn't stop. The wise ones don't wait for the river to calm, they learn how to swim. And in swimming, they discover their own strength, their rhythm, their clarity. So if you're sitting, waiting for life to give you a sign, maybe movement itself is the sign. Maybe what you're waiting for is waiting for you. Maybe the door you're staring at is locked only because you haven't turned the handle yet. Yes, stillness has its place. Reflection is beautiful. Meditation gives direction. But movement gives revelation. The calm mind helps you see where you're going. The moving feet help you get there. Every great creator, every innovator, every person who ever made a difference didn't wait to be sure. They acted, they adjusted, they learned, they moved, and through movement, clarity arrived. So take the step, even if you're unsure, even if you're scared. Because when you move, life moves with you. And somewhere along the journey, as you walk through your doubts, you'll look back and realize clarity wasn't something you found, it was something you created. Action kills anxiety. You see, the mind loves to create stories, but the body wants movement. When you're trapped in your head, replaying the same worries over and over, your mind becomes a cage. You start to feel stuck, restless, overwhelmed, like you're drowning in thoughts that have no exit. That's what anxiety truly is, energy with nowhere to go. And the only way to release it is through action. Think about it. The moments you feel most anxious are often the ones when you're doing nothing but thinking, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake, every what if, every possibility of failure. You try to think your way out of it, but thinking is what put you there in the first place. You can't escape a maze by drawing a map inside your mind. You have to move your feet. You have to walk. Action changes your energy. The second you do something, anything, your focus shifts from the endless noise in your head to the task in front of you. It could be something small, cleaning your space, writing one sentence, making one call, stepping outside for air. And somehow, That one small action creates momentum. Suddenly, your brain stops spiraling and starts aligning. Because your body tells your mind, we're not stuck anymore. Anxiety feeds on inaction. The more you wait, the more powerful it grows. The more you analyze, the more roots it spreads. But once you take action, you cut off its oxygen. You show your brain that life is not meant to be lived in imagination, but in experience. You don't overcome anxiety by overthinking less, you overcome it by doing more. Have you noticed how, when you finally do the thing you've been dreading, the presentation, the conversation, the project, it's never as bad as your mind imagined? That's because fear lives before action, not after it. Before you act, fear controls you. After you act, fear dissolves. Because reality is never as terrifying as the story you built in your head. And that's the secret. You can't think your way into peace. You must act your way into it. Action brings clarity. Action brings strength. Action brings a sense of control that thinking can never give. When you move, your brain releases chemicals, dopamine, endorphins, that signal safety and progress. Your nervous system calms down because it senses forward motion. It's the body's way of saying, we're okay, we're doing something, we're moving forward. Imagine a car engine that's been running idle for too long. The more it stays still, the hotter it gets, the more it shakes. But the moment it starts moving, the engine cools, the vibrations settle, and everything works smoothly. That's how your mind works too. Overthinking is mental idling, too much energy, not enough movement. Action is the cooling system that brings balance back. But let's be clear, action doesn't always mean a massive step. It can be as simple as taking the next right move. When you're buried in worry, just ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do right now? That one small act, a message, a list, a walk, can pull you out of your head and back into your life. Because life doesn't respond to intention, it responds to action. Some people wait for motivation to take action. But that's not how it works. Action comes first, motivation follows. You don't feel like running until you've already started moving. You don't feel creative until you've begun writing. You don't feel brave until you've taken the risk. Waiting for the right feeling before taking action is like waiting for the fire to start before you gather the wood. You have to move first, and the feeling will follow. And that's what peace really is. Not the absence of thoughts, but the mastery of direction. You decide where to put your energy. You decide whether you'll feed fear or fuel momentum. Because anxiety is loud, but action is louder. So the next time your mind begins to race, when your chest tightens and your thoughts feel too heavy to hold, don't try to think positive. Just move. Stand up. Take a breath. Do something, however small. Because once you start, even in the smallest way, your body whispers to your mind, we're not trapped anymore. And that whisper, that first step, becomes the sound of your freedom. Perfection is the partner of procrastination. It's the sweetest lie your mind tells you. The one that sounds noble, responsible, even wise if, I'll start when it's perfect. You convince yourself that you're just waiting for the right moment, the right mood, the right setup, the right amount of skill. But the truth is, perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist in reality. It only exists in the mind of those who are afraid to begin. You see, perfection is a form of fear wearing a beautiful mask. It whispers, you're not ready yet. And you believe it because it sounds so logical. But what it really means is, you're afraid to fail. And so instead of taking action, you polish, you plan, You prepare endlessly. You edit your ideas to death. You hold back your voice. You keep waiting for that magical day when everything feels certain, but that day never comes. Because perfectionists are experts at delay. They call it preparation, but deep down it's hesitation. If you think about it, perfection is the enemy of progress. Every masterpiece you admire, every book, song, business, or invention started as something messy, unfinished, raw. The first draft is never beautiful. The first attempt is never smooth. The first performance is never flawless. But the courage to begin, despite imperfection, is what makes it evolve into something great. The artist who waits for perfection never paints. The writer who waits for the perfect words never writes. The dreamer who waits for a perfect certainty never lives. Life rewards those who move, not those who wait. Because progress is born in motion, not in mastery. You don't become good before starting. You become good by starting. Every imperfect step teaches you something that thinking never will. Each mistake becomes a mentor. Each failure becomes feedback. And slowly, through experience, what once felt unclear becomes your second nature. We live in a world that celebrates the polished version of everything: perfect photos, perfect speeches, perfect lives. But behind every perfect moment you see, there's a trail of imperfection. Sleepless nights, countless rejections, invisible struggles. Nobody posts the process. They only show the product. And that's why so many people get trapped comparing their messy beginnings to someone else's finished chapter. But progress isn't meant to look pretty. It's meant to look real. Perfection is a myth that feeds your ego but starves your growth. Because deep down, perfectionism isn't about standards. It's about control. The need to make everything flawless is the mind's way of avoiding vulnerability. You're afraid that if you show your real self, unpolished, uncertain, imperfect, people will judge you. But ironically, people connect most with what's real, not what's perfect. Authenticity touches hearts. Perfection creates distance. Think of a diamond. When it's found, it's rough, unshaped, unappealing. It takes pressure, cutting, and time to reveal its brilliance. But imagine if that diamond refused to go through the process because it wanted to stay perfect in its rough form. It would never shine. That's what happens when you wait for perfection before acting. You never get shaped by life. You stay untouched by growth. The truth is, perfection is not a destination. It's a direction. You aim for excellence, but you move through imperfection. You fall, you learn, you improve, you rise. That's the process. That's how greatness is born. Every single person you admire once stood where you are, full of uncertainty, terrified of judgment, unsure if they were enough. But they chose courage over perfection. They chose action over waiting. And here's something powerful. Done is always better than perfect. Because done creates movement, creates experience, creates results. Perfect creates nothing but pressure. The perfect moment is now, because it's the only one that truly exists. You'll never feel completely ready, and that's okay. Readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide that you're ready to begin with your fear, with your flaws, with your doubts, and that's when life begins to unfold. So stop polishing your plans and start pursuing them. Stop rewriting your dreams and start living them. Perfection will never arrive, but progress will, if you dare to start. Because in the end, it's not the perfect who succeed. It's the brave, the ones who take messy, uncertain, courageous action and learn along the way. Remember, a flower doesn't wait for the wind to stop blowing before it blooms. It opens anyway. And that's what you must do. Bloom, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer want to stay buried in the soil of hesitation.